have the fantastic Will Waldron, UK PR manager at Connective 3. So I'll share Will's fantastic fun facts. He's a qualified bass guitar teacher. I have asked him to come on and do a little riff initially, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. He plays in a funk band. He has performed at the Royal Albert Hall and a ska band at the young age of 14, which is fantastic. And he's going travelling around America next year. Cannot wait. Not clear whether he's going to be busking his way around or not, but I'll hand over to Will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick. Hi, guys. I'll just do the classic check. Can everyone see my screen? Are we all good? Wonderful. So welcome to my talk, Building More Than Just Links, how to make sure your link building strategy drives success by aligning digital PR, SEO and content. So I'm Will. I'm the UK PR manager at Connective 3. I've got around 11 years worth of experience now. I always feel old when I say that. Done lots of different types of PR. I actually started out in music PR, worked in traditional, and now I'm in digital. Worked with tons of different brands as well, Ocado, Avon, Adobe, etc. So I'm going to start with the obvious, what digital PR is in 2025. So building links is like acquiring social proof. So when Google looks at your site and sees that you have lots of authoritative referring domains pointing back to it, it kind of drives the signals that they can look at you and think, okay, you're a trustworthy brand or a trustworthy source. The more backlinks a page has, the more organic traffic it gets from Google. So it really does affect search visibility. And the first ranking page on Google has an average of 3.8 times more backlinks than positions 2 to 10. So those first kind of 8 to 12 places on page one really do make an effect in terms of getting traffic to your page and then conversions. So the more links and the more diverse backlink profile you can have, the stronger position you're going to be in. So I've just given you a really, really top level overview of digital PR. I could go a lot more in depth, but there's more to talk about in this talk. But we've recently found through a Google leak that certain backlink qualities are going to make the organic difference. There's SEO factors that we need to consider when we're building links. So first and foremost is relevancy. As someone in PR, anyone on this call that works in PR will probably say relevancy about 1,000 times a day, but it really is important, ensuring that the content and the site that you're going to link on is relevant to your brand and audience. Freshly published content. So having that sort of ongoing, consistent output of campaigns, and then site authority and high quality news sites. If you can get the links on the high domain authority sites or news sites like The Guardian, BBC, etc., that's the kind of space you want to be. But again, this is very top level. We could go into more niche building, link building areas as well. And the relevancy really does come into play when you're building those links. So links are important. They are still out there. We do need them. There's lots of talks about maybe PR not being as important as it was in the past, but it generally still is. But the thing we need to know is that the organic landscape is changing. Obviously, I'm going to have to talk about AI because it's a marketing talk. We'll all have seen them when we search something on Google now that it comes up with the little generated answer fee at the top. Google is fully committed to integrating generative AI into search. This is only just the start, so very much part of the evolution in search, and we are going to have to be a part of it as well. So brand searches and fresh EAT content has never been more important. So this is from Ahrefs. So this was a prediction how searches will get answers before and after AI. So if you look at the top, starts with the featured snippets, so the small direct answers, and then underneath all of that would be the organic results, the links to the different pages. But now after AI, as you can see, AI has kind of wedged itself nicely in the middle of the two. So it's in the middle of the shallow topic. So the shallow topic would be if you searched, what is the weather going to be like tomorrow? Google would give you a direct answer through AI. And then there's also the deeper topics that might require insights or data or expert commentary, the more sort of in-depth pieces as well. So it sits right in the middle of those two, which tells us we need to be balancing our content and what we're putting out there to answer both the shallow topics and the deep topics at the same time. Social media search. Is it the new Google? I'm sure everyone on this call has tried searching for something on TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, etc. It's making movement. It's not quite there yet. So 85% of people still use Google as their preferred method of search. 15% doesn't seem like the biggest number in the world, but then if you kind of comprehend 15% of all searches are currently not going through Google anymore, and it's only going to grow, it really does tell us that the landscape is moving in a direction that we need to be adapting to. So just to give you a really quick example of how this is sort of affecting early doors for what we do at C3. So we work with Avon. You might remember Avon, they were kind of like your mum's favourite beauty brand, but they basically came to us and asked us to help them appeal to Gen Zs and millennials and get the younger audiences in. So rather than just kind of creating standard press releases and proactives and things like that, to get in front of that audience, we went straight to influencers first and then generated the influencer content into PR campaigns. So PR strategies kind of now they need to sort of integrate social first storytelling to stay relevant. So it's just an example of how the landscape is moving and how we're starting to adapt to that. So building relevant results with customer influencing content is absolutely the aim of the game right now. If there's one thing to take away from this deck, I'd probably say this is the slide. So we need to influence the customer journey now. So first and foremost is the exposure and the trigger. So what is making a person buy a product or an activity? So if I use something like trainers, for example, if you needed a new pair of trainers, why are you buying those trainers? Is it because the ones you currently have are ruined and old? Have you seen an influencer or celebrities wear a certain pair? We need to be starting to be at the front of that journey. How can we be the trigger? How can we push people to buy something? Step 2 is where it gets messy, or the messy middle. So as you can see, Google's on there, offline, kind of word of mouth, the standard things, but then we now have to compete with kind of TikToks on there. So people do sort of real life perspectives of unboxing and reviews and that kind of thing that you can see on camera. You have YouTube, which is pretty much like a try before you buy now with people testing products. Reddit, which just has the most sort of real life conversations. Like there are so many places now people can go to get a really sort of in-depth account of something they want to buy or be involved with. So we need to make sure that the content we're creating when we do start our PR strategies is, okay, how can we get in front of audiences on these different platforms, not just Google? So these are kind of the steps, the 1-2 steps that now we're thinking of before we start generating the ideation. How can we prompt people initially start thinking about making an action, and then where do we need to place it for them to actually do the action? So this is why we need to start thinking beyond PR. The ideal campaign right now, of course, it needs to influence customers. We're not just building links. It's obviously a great thing to hit your KPI and fill up a spreadsheet with links. But what has that done? We need to be driving sales through our links, and we're all part of a bigger process. It should drive brand. This is hugely important now. I think if I use the trainers example again, if you were looking for new trainers, you might automatically search for a household name. So you might go in and think, oh, I'll try Adidas or Nike, etc. So if you're a smaller independent site or business, now is the time that you really, really need to be pushing your brand, your key messages, your products, your tone of voice, everything that you can possibly do to really put yourself in a competitive position. And of course, it should drive relevant links. So as the Google leak kind of stated, we need them to be fresh and consistent. You can localize them and put them through different regions depending on where you're focusing on. They need to be relevant and they need to be on high authority sites as well. So digital PR, I think, needs to be everywhere. So if this kind of, if this infographic kind of gives you a visual of what I mean here, so I'll put sort of PR in the center. And then when we expand out, okay, how can we branch out into these different elements? So can we make it work for different platforms? Can it be part of social media? Should we be working for influencers? Does our campaign have an aligning on-site blog? And does that content support SGE? Does it have all the keywords and the categories and all the focuses that we need in there for SEO value? And are we using data to ensure that we're in front of the right audience? So do we know where our audience gets information? Do we need to be putting billboards out there? Should we be on TV? Should we be on radio? Where is going to get their attention? So when you start with PR, we need to start branching out to these different areas. So I'm going to give you another quick example of how we did this for Good Move. So they basically came to us and asked us to increase their SEO rankings, build high quality backlinks and drive brand awareness. So we could have just built links by press releases, reactive activity, that kind of thing, which would have absolutely served a purpose. But instead, bear with me on the cheesiness of this, we aim for the stars. So we sent some keys to space, which is the hilarious ideation idea. Can we send something down the Thames or can we send something to space? But we thought actually, someone said it as a joke, which is always the fun of ideating. And then we thought, no, we could actually do something with this. So the whole premise of this campaign came from, we surveyed people to find out how out of reach hitting your house deposit was. And we got big percentages saying, it's just so out of reach that people don't feel like they're ever going to be able to afford their own house, etc. So we thought, how could we sort of use that out of reach line within the surveys to our advantage. And we thought the most out of reach place to be is probably space. So we sent some keys up, as you can see in the visual on the top right. And we dropped those keys from space, and whoever found them got 10 grand towards a house deposit. So we had a few little hiccups at the start. We had to do, there was plenty of health and safety to check that the keys didn't actually land on someone. But we got through all that, and it was fine in the end. But the best thing about this campaign was it generated so many different areas of marketing that we really developed a good opportunity for overall organic progress. So first and foremost, with the PR, we had 3 stages. So we kind of had an announcement release, we had a progress release, and then like a winners release. We staggered 3 elements of outreach there. We obviously had the visual of it going to space. That was on an on-site blog. We put that visual on social medias as well and shared that with different influencers and people that were on board. And we just generated so much content that we got over 80 links for it. 4 million impressions, visibility was increased, rankings were increased, and it all came from this one campaign. So it was a really fun thing to do. And it was just an example of, how you can utilize different departments within where you're working to really push organic results. And you can replicate this. I appreciate, so I'm very lucky in a position where I'm in an agency that has lots of different departments. So if we have these ideas, we can kind of lean on other people. But I appreciate a lot of people you might be a freelancer, you might be a one person kind of marketing band. So I thought I would go through different elements that can make you thinking like a marketing all-rounder that you might have access to. And I'm hoping you at least have access to one of these as well as the PR activity that you're doing. So influence and celebrity, social media, paid media, SEO, content, and CRO. So working with influencers and celebrities to build trust around your brand whilst increasing consumer reach really can take a PR campaign to a next level now, especially for when we talk about influencing that customer journey. Depending on your brand and your demographic, influencers and celebrity can really push that. So first and foremost, you get headline grabbing at elevation. So if you interviewed a celebrity and they were in your headline, you're instantly going to turn a journalist's attention, especially if you're outreaching to sort of showbiz journalists as well. And their opinion and expertise is really sort of championed by the journalist because, say if it was a footballer talking about a football result, they're kind of the perfect person to be talking about that. And their name will attract people to read it. So always good to get the headline grabbing attention. They have a direct influence on target audience. Obviously, I think we all kind of know that influencers can be expensive, but there's absolutely a valid reason for this. Is because their audiences can be absolutely perfect to what you need. So say if you were a cleaning brand that wanted to push a new cleaning product and you got it in front of Lindsay Queen of Clean's audience, her followers are the exact people that are going to buy your product. So it creates lots of engagement and that kind of thing. So it's definitely, if you do have the budget, worth exploring. User-generated content is king. So I think anyone working in PR on the call will know now that case studies are doing really, really well at the minute. It seems that even journalists want to create that first-person perspective. Like I mentioned earlier, it's almost that try before you buy element. You can literally see first-hand an authentic review of a product or a holiday destination just by finding this content now. So if you can generate that, always worth doing with an influencer. And finally, longevity and flexibility. So it really is budget dependent. I know these things can be expensive, so it might be worth looking at like multiple micro influencers dotted around the year. Or if you did have the budget, you can kind of do the bigger brand ambassador, maybe like a year-long contract with them as well. Content, like we need to be creating content that ranks, converts, and aligns with any organic performance goals. I kind of see content and a blog, if you're doing a PR campaign, is always an extension of the press release. So you need to address the user intent. So those kind of shallow topics and questions that your customer might want to know about, but maybe they're not as interested enough to be putting in a press release. This is what we can be putting in the blog. So you have that nice balance of the direct addressing those smaller questions and then the extra in-depth detail as well. Clarity and structure. So compelling headlines, concise paragraphs, call to action. If you have people on your site reading about something, you need to take advantage of that. So can you push them to convert? As I mentioned, think of it like a press release. You need those headlines, nice paragraphs. Keyword game on point, of course. This is the opportunity to really take advantage of the organic growth areas. So make sure they're a natural fit and you're directly answering the question. Don't put too many in there. Focus on the ones that you need to rank and prioritize being helpful through the whole thing, because we know that is the direction Google's going in. And then finally, be creative. This is the area I was talking with the content where you really can have fun. You can be interactive on there. You can do quizzes. You can have infographics showing your data, lots of visuals. Give the journalist a reason to link back to that blog page when they look at it. Give them something extra that you wouldn't necessarily put in a press release, but they can go back to the blog and really explore it. And then paid media, it's not a typo at the top. If you haven't spoken to your paid media team about their data and insights, you're really, really missing a trick. So they can literally tell you the proven paid search performers. They can tell you the keywords and categories that make the most money and the ones that make the least money as well. So you can kind of look at that and think, okay, maybe we need to generate campaigns around the performers that aren't doing so well to try and get some visibility towards them. They can literally predict audience trends for you. They can uncover emerging consumer behaviors. They can tell you what the most popular products are, who's buying what, which means you can strategically time PR relevancy and activities. So say if you work with a brand and a product has all of a sudden just gone mad with sales, you can think, oh, maybe we should go on top of this and do some activity around it. Really good for competitor edge. So they can tell you what your competitors are spending. If you see that your competitors have put a huge chunk of budget into one product or category page or area, you know then that you should start developing something around that as well to take some of the traffic share and so they don't want to run away with it. And then finally, it can kind of work hand in hand. So the PR findings can also fuel what the paid team does. So I'll just give you a quick example of this. We work with Thoughtful, the greetings card marketplace. We did a campaign for Valentine's Day based on the romantic cities, and we literally just did it very quickly from Thoughtful sales data around each region in the UK. So we could say X amount bought the most Valentine's Day cards, pretty much. But we found that there were some regions that had never bought a Thoughtful card. So we then took this data to the paid team and said, can you start directing ads to these regions? And they did do, and ever since then, they've been generating sales. So it's just interesting how it can go hand in hand. And then SEO, of course, SEO and PR are kind of best friends. But in terms of ideation to really help your PR campaigns and link building now, make sure you really are leaning on your SEO team. They can tell you the top converting topics, keyword and category growth. Again, from both perspectives, they can tell you the keywords that are performing really well and the ones that aren't as well. So if you need to boost those categories that aren't doing so well, make sure you generate campaigns there. They can tell you what the media wants. They can do media trend analysis. They can tell you what your audience wants through social listening tools and different publication focuses. And they can look into your competitors as well. They can tell you all the publications that your competitors have links on, but you don't. So then you can try and match some of that traffic share. And then CRO, for those that aren't familiar for CRO, I'm kind of getting used to it myself, to be honest. It's almost like the digital shop front. So if you were going into a supermarket now or any store, when you go to the checkout, sometimes there's things positioned in the queue or on the counter, because obviously you're already there to buy something to try and encourage you to buy something else. I think I'm right in saying CRO is essentially that, but the internet version. So why things are positioned in certain places on a page. And this is really interesting because I've been trying to figure more of this out in my CRO team at C3 and how we can use that in PR as well. So you can make sure that whatever campaigns you're doing is completely aligned with the web page content. So if they are pushing specific products on the homepage, which is the first thing a consumer will see when they go on, you should be talking about something similar if you can in campaigns to really align the message and hopefully drive people to convert when they do have a similar topic and they go through to the homepage. They see it again and think, interesting, I can learn more about this. They can constantly analyze data. They can tell you the parts of the site that are popular and unpopular, which products are selling well, which pages are performing well, where people are clicking, and they can keep tracking these results and refine them. So they will tell you, okay, we've kind of come to the end of this campaign, or say, this summer's sales items, we need to move on to something else. Can you swap your ideation now? So you can kind of work hand in hand with what's performing on the site. And then you can kind of personalize as well and retarget. So if you have a publication in mind that you really want to get a link on and you want to create a blog or some content around it, you could ask the people that work in your CRO team to then adapt the page slightly, maybe change the tone of voice or the imagery or the design to then hopefully try and push a journalist to link back to it because they think that your page matches their branding. There's tons you can do with CRO as well. And then last little bit of proof it works. So we work with Checkatrade. Apologies in advance to any Man United fans on this call, but basically this was a time when Old Trafford's leaky roof went viral. So we created billboards, as you can see in the bottom left, that said, leaky roof, leaky defence, there are some things even Checkatrade can't fix. So we kind of had that tongue-in-cheek comedy element to it as well. But this is just another example of how we use sort of multimedia to really generate conversions and traffic. So we obviously had press releases on this as well. Like I said, it has that comedy and sport element. So we got results in the likes of the Sun, Daily Star, Lad Bible, Sky Sports, etc. We also obviously had the out-of-home media. So we had billboards all around Manchester doing that. We had an on-site blog with it. It was pushed on socials. So yeah, we saw a 21% increase in Northwest Leeds, 15 million impressions, 17 links, and that was all within 24 hours. So it's just a really nice example of sort of a high impact, all round marketing campaign. So a few key takeaways from me. So links are still very important, but we need to adapt to a changing landscape. The customer journey is changing, and we need to update our organic strategies to facilitate both customers and Google's needs. We need to utilize different channels, think beyond PR, think beyond link building to respond to the revolution in the media landscape and the customer journey, and get yourself and your team thinking like marketing all-rounders, changing how you measure success. And that's me. Thank you very much, guys.
Will, thank you very much. Very informative and very funky, as I would expect from yourself. So very practical tips in there as well, which is fantastic. I've got a great question following through on that, thanks to Alec. So he says that we keep hearing more and more EAT, how it's growing in importance more than ever. But what does this actually mean right now for us as SEOs, specifically SEOs who may be smaller to medium brands with such smaller budgets, lesser brand searches, maybe, and some of the big boys? He's asking what outside of the box methods are there that we can take to improve EAT.
Interesting question. Yeah, so EAT is, I think, from what I've learned or been learning over the last 6 months, is essentially coming from, because AI is sort of sat itself in the middle of the shallow and the deeper topics. The experience, expertise, authorityness, and trustworthiness are basically all of those elements combined in what AI does for you. It gives you that direct answer. It gives you exactly what you want to hear. So in terms of what we can be doing, I would start with the easy steps. So like you said, if you are a smaller team and you don't have tons of resources, etc., having a look at your blogs, are you answering those questions directly? Are you giving the user experience exactly what they need? Are you doing more sort of tips-based press releases and proactives? Being informative and engaging, and just make sure that the content on your site and the content that you're delivering, whether it's even on social media, is all of those things in one. And I think that would be, if I was starting from scratch, that is exactly what I'd be doing. Every time I'm writing a piece, whether it's a blog or a press release, does it have the experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness that we need?
Another question in from Becky. How would you recommend getting buy-in from higher up, more senior people, especially for more creative ideas? In her team, the press releases are fairly standard, not that creative. It's hard to encourage people to shake things up a little bit. Time and budget's always a factor, but we probably all know that actually creativity doesn't have to cost anything. But how can Becky help sort of get buy-in from above, really?
Yeah, honestly, I honestly think it's the hardest part, is getting it, because there is absolutely no doubt that it can be a risk. I think the word stunt is kind of thrown around, like, oh, let's try something stunty. And sometimes when you're doing the deliverables to your client or your brand, they kind of like, oh, well, there's no guarantee of return and it might cost me a lot of money. So it is always a risk. But the two things I would say are, firstly, is how you sell it in. 100%. It's almost that salesman element. If you're on the fence about spending money on anything in the world, you kind of need to be convinced sometimes. So if you genuinely have a really good idea and you've backed it with data and experience, you've shown them examples of how you've done something similar before and the success you've had, you sell it in as well as you possibly can. Get them involved as well with the ideation. So when you are coming up with the ideas, if you can initially get your client or brand sort of on board early days, wanting to explore something, it always, always, always helps. But also I would recommend fit it in with the regular day-to-day would be my other thing. So don't put all your eggs in one basket and kind of think, if we do this campaign and it fails, this brand is going to be really mad at us. Continue the other stuff underneath. Make sure you've left some spare time to do some proactives and build some links in the background, and switch it up each quarter. So maybe say, okay, we've had great organic success over the last 3 months. Can we try something new to really push brand over non-brand, for example? So yeah, how you sell it in, and just make sure you've got a bit of a backup plan in case you do have the awkward meet if it hasn't worked.
I love it. Baby steps, a little bit, 10% of your effort maybe in doing something differently, and just try it and then with guardrails and see what happens. But fantastic. Thanks so much, Will. Really, really insightful. Thank you so much.